Greetings, Wastelanders. Cregan here with a post-holiday special. Today, we're going to answer a recurring question that comes up after every big holiday meal. What do you do with all the leftovers? Obviously, the best answer is, why, eat them, of course. And what better way to harness the sudden caloric intake than to equip a Gourmand's rifle and don a set of Overeater's armor? For this build, we're going to want to pick as many food-based perks as we can, and since we're giving in to overindulgence, we're also going to equip Party Girl and Happy-Go-Lucky for some added boozy benefits. With the added luck, we might as well round out some extra crit damage with better criticals, 4-leaf clover, and critical savvy. If you have any legendary specials cards equipped, you can round this build out nicely with a full tier of VATS perks and either Rifleman or Commando. Otherwise, feel free to cut back where you need to save room for the food perks. Oh yeah, did I mention this episode is stuffed full of food jokes? And just you wait, I'm only beginning to dish them out. And just as a reminder, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on future content and live streams. For food and alcohol, we're going to need to set up a farm for the ingredients, and since I already have the herbivore mutation, which is a huge mistake, plant-based food benefits are already doubled. For food, I'm going to be crafting pumpkin pies and cranberry relish. Not only does this give us extra hit points and XP, but it also fits in with the holiday theme as well. For the pie, I'll obviously need pumpkins, but for the relish, I'll need to grow gourds, gather cranberries, and craft sugar. Normally, I'd recommend Ballistic Bach as the alcohol for the extra 15% ballistic damage, but that wasn't a recipe I've learned on this character, and I unfortunately didn't have the time to run through all of Biv's quests.
Does it smell like alcohol down here, or is it just me?
I'll likely cover that in a future video, but for now, simply any pre-war alcohol will work with Happy-Go-Lucky, so let's just stick with beer. Just like with a real dinner, food in Fallout 76 spoils over time, so we want to make sure that we have as much prepped as possible before we begin cooking, and crops take a bit of time to mature as well, so let's start by getting a farm ready. Since planting crops before building a homestead isn't that particularly smart, I've gone ahead and found a nice patch of ground to call my own, and raised up some simple walls to keep out unwanted guests. The absolute best place for pumpkins in-game is across the street from the pumpkin house, which is where the pumpkin pie recipe also happens to be located if you don't have it. If we also equip the perk card Green Thumb, we can double the harvest of all crops, which should give us plenty of pumpkins to start with. Start with the house diagonally across the street and make your way south, making sure to check the ground for more pumpkins. Gourds are a little trickier to find and might take some time to gather an appropriate amount. Since looting pre-harvested gourds doesn't benefit from having Green Thumb, we're going to concentrate on what is likely the single best place to harvest them, northeast of the General's Steakhouse. For beer, we'll also need razor grain and corn, which are plentiful around Aaronholt Homestead. Let's get these guys in the ground and start on the beer first, as the fermentation process takes time to complete. Plant half of the razor grain and corn now, and use the rest to get our first batch going. Combine the grain, corn, boiled water, and wood together for fermentable beer, and drop everything in the fermenter to start on our final product. For the relish, we'll also need sugar, which luckily doesn't take much to craft, and doesn't spoil once it's in its granular form. We'll need to gather snaptail reeds, which are plentiful along the river between Vault-Tec Agricultural and Morgantown, and combined with wood at a campfire or stove for our final product. We'll also need cranberries, which unfortunately aren't able to be planted in camps or workshops, so we'll have to gather wild ones. Fortunately, however, we don't need to run all the way to the bog for those, as you can find a plentiful supply at Aaronholt. Grab everything here, and we should have more than enough for today's episode. Combine all ingredients together, making sure you have super duper equipped, and we should have a decent amount of food and beer to stuff ourselves silly with. Okay, I definitely don't remember Mirelurk eggs being a ingredient in pumpkin pie, but I guess I'll go get some, plus some more boiled water. So there's actually a pretty good location that we can get these guys at. I'll hop around and we'll farm these a bit. With our portable feast tucked safely in our bag, let's test the functionality of our food buffs by heading over to West First, let's take a baseline of how much damage we can dish out and take by taking on these guys outside on an empty stomach. Alright, so you might see that I actually have a food buff on in the bottom right-hand corner. That's because I had to redo some stuff. However, my thirst and hunger meters are at 0, and you can see that my rifle here is not doing a lot of damage. So let's see how we do on an empty stomach.
See what your science has done, human. You die. Kill.
And with a full stomach, we should see that the damage is increased slightly, but not our base defense. And that's because the Overeater's armor has up to a 6% reduction in ballistic damage per piece, stacking up to 5 times. This is an invisible buff and unfortunately isn't reflected in any stats we can see. It's very similar to the ballistic damage reduction found in power armor. For the real test, let's see what kind of trouble we can stir up inside. So just to test out the armor, let's just go in all Leroy Jenkins style here. This guy is a legendary. Not enough to kill him before he heals up. Accuracy isn't great, but it's a handmade.
Nice.
Slightly better, but not incredible. It feels more DPS-y if I can actually get a hit in on VATS. But that 30% reduction in damage is definitely noticeable.
You die!
Since Thanksgiving is about sharing our overabundance of food and, well, not everyone appreciates a vegan dinner, let's get something else to put on the table. Ever since the Thanksgiving tables were announced for the Addams Shop, both Facebook and Reddit have been theorizing that the now non-existent turkey in the center was actually one of the game's massive cave crickets. And since it's not very sporting to hunt with a rifle like this, we're going to take on a more traditional approach and swap our automatic handmade for a black powder rifle. There's a good population of crickets at Tanagra Town, so let's head there and see how we fare against them. Alright, it is open season on crickets. There is one now. Make sure we top off here. Alright, not incredibly well. Not against a level 100 at least. This guy's gonna kill me. Wow. Hasta la vista. Into the dark, scary cave with a black powder rifle. Crit shot definitely got him. Oh, great. Now I've got two. Nice to meet you. Another one bites the crust. Almost a one-shot on that legendary. Holy crap. That poison damage is real. Poke your head out. Oof, glad that's over. There's always a good chance of winding up overdone when facing crickets, but it was a risk I was willing to take. Well, folks, just like the puns, this episode is just about expired. I want to wish you and your settlement a happy holiday season, and remember, an apple a day may keep the doctor away, but a full buffet in a bag will weigh you down and will probably just attract ghouls.